Disclaimer, the following is a lengthy discussion, so if there's a specific topic that you want to hear us discuss, links to the timestamps are in the description below, and if you're on a mobile device, the timestamps are in the pinned comment of the comment section below. For those looking to hear the full discussion, however, please enjoy the following audio content.
Hey everybody, SONGOSHUAKU'S here!
And welcome, as I will be going out of the world of Ultra Instinct and stepping into the world of Plus Ultra. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, I have finally completed all 3 seasons of Boku no Hero Academia, aka My Hero Academia, and this is the review, but mostly discussion regarding the story and characters of Season 1. But first, make sure to hit that subscribe button followed by hitting the notification bell so that way you are notified as soon as my content is released. And now joining me, please welcome, she is an aspiring actress, voice actress, someone whose life has been greatly inspired by My Hero Academia recently. Please welcome to the channel for the very first time, Rebecca Pecura, aka Rebecca Beck.
Hello, hi, thanks for having me.
Finally, we can finally sit down and talk about My Hero Academia. I know, like I said, I know this series meant a lot to you in terms of just the amazing inspiration that can be found in this, you know, and everything. It truly is. So we're gonna go down here and talk about Season 1. So we'll just be breaking down our general thoughts here about Season 1, everyone, and we'll eventually have future podcasts going for Seasons 2 and 3. Let's begin here with the man who created it all, the writer, the illustrator for My Hero Academia and the manga, which I should just state, neither me or Beck have read the mangas, so we're totally going based off the anime continuity here. So yeah, let's start off with the manga creator here, Kohei Horikoshi. So this is a guy, from what I researched, was very inspired from Naruto and a lot of Western superheroes, and you really see his influence here in My Hero Academia. And honestly, what better of a time when you look at how popular a lot of the superhero movies have become. Let's face it, this guy couldn't have picked a better time, but I think his writing style is very interesting because, as I mentioned, there's just so much inspiration he puts into this, into the characters and the way he writes the stories, that you can really have, you can really take it into your own life and whatever your goals and dreams are, and really apply it. And then on top of that, I mean, I just think the character designs, it's unique, it's just something that can grab you no matter what age you are. The colorful anime, well, we'll get to the animation, but just the designs in general that he's made, and on top of that, I just like the way he's written the story. And as we go on about the characters, we'll get more into that. But yeah, anything you like to add on, Rebecca Beck, about Horikoshi's, just his designs or writing story? This is the man responsible for My Hero Academia.
Oh yeah, for so Horikoshi, how do you say it again? Hold on. Horikoshi Kohei, that's his name, yeah. So then, yeah, with Horikoshi, what I really liked, obviously from the start, when I've always been into like superhero movies and stuff like that, and I really just like that influence that he had. Like, he really brought like a lot of the Western, like, you know, like the ideas of like Spider-Man and stuff like that. So he kind of brought that into it, and I really liked that. And just something interesting I thought was funny about him, he really didn't think that My Hero Academia would be that popular overseas at all. He's like, oh no, I'm just going to take like Western influence and, you know, I'm going to bring it to Japan. I'm going to do what I want to do with it. But in no way did he think that it would be as popular as it became. And it's so funny because it's like, he really doesn't get us. Like, he doesn't get that we love superheroes. Like, this is why we keep coming out with Avengers movies and stuff like that, because we love these kind of stories. And it's just so funny to hear him or to read like interviews about him. He's like, no, I had no idea it would be this popular. Like, it's so surprising to me.
Very well said. You know, that's even enlightening to me because I'll be honest, everybody knows who's been following me with my Dragon Ball podcast. I'm a big hardcore fan of Dragon Ball, but I'm still fairly new to My Hero Academia, so it's really good to hear something like that and hear more information on it. But yeah, the man has a really incredible mind for storytelling. I gotta admit, I really enjoyed it. And I think someone who maybe does understand the popularity over here would be one of the main producers, Wakana Akamura. And she, the way she has produced this show and the attention to detail and the care that has gone into the animation is really incredible. And much props to the director Kenji Nagasaki. I mean, just what they've put and the direction that they've put into this anime and it being seasoned, I think has been amazing. I think much props to the anime supervisor Yoshihiko Umakoshi. Sorry if I mispronounced that or botched
his
it.
full name is.
Yeah. I'm trying to give it
Yoshihiko, there it is. Yoshihiko Amakoshi. So Amakoshi Yoshihiko. Oh,
yeah.
Oh.
I'm trying to give props here to yeah, sorry if we butchered the names. She's much better at Japanese than I am, believe me. But the thing is, I wanted to just give props to these people because these are people that have really made this show amazing. The animation is always amazing. The direction, the production, and one of the things that I really like about My Hero Academia being a seasoned anime is I just feel like you really get the best of what you want. You don't get bad animation. You don't get like a bunch of filler that feels like it's not going to add something to the part. You know, once again, as a guy who does a lot of covering on Dragon Ball for podcasts, one of the biggest complaints, and you talk to a lot of hardcore Dragon Ball fans about about the way the production was run for Super early on. If you've ever seen episode 5, yeesh, yikes! It's so chaotic. Even if you have good animators, it's so chaotic. And watching My Hero Academia, I really like to see a show like Dragon Ball Super go on to become seasonal because I think it would really, it just would really shine that way. And we talk about the fillers. You've heard, I'm pretty sure, of animes like Naruto or Bleach where they just go on and on with these long filler arcs. I mean, it got so bad, shows like Inuyasha, they just said, screw it, and we're gonna just wait till the manga finish. The manga finishes, and then we finally go back into, the final act, and they remake the series, and then, and I think that was like 2 years. Think about that. It was just a few episodes. It took for 2 years to cover 2 years of manga content. Imagine how much filler we would have got if they continued on. So, when you look at the success of My Hero Academia, I think this is a winning format for like long-running shows like this. You get plenty of time for the animators to just go ahead and have fun and just, you know, design to their heart's content, and just the care that's going into it. I think this would be, like I said, it's a direction I would love to see Dragon Ball Super go in. I know you haven't finished Super yet, but I think you'll be agreeing with me once you do that, yeah, it needs a season. And a lot of other stuff. I know there's other, like One Punch Man, which is a season anime, Attack on Titan, and I think these shows are popular because of that format. So any thoughts you like to say about the production staff here and the way we put on before we start getting into the songs and the characters?
Oh, you know, like for sure. I haven't read the manga, and I've told you that before. Where because I kind of like having the anime like a surprise, and I feel like a manga like this, it's meant to be in animation. It's meant to be moving. So I like seeing the anime for the first time and being like, wow, this is happening. Oh, dude, you know. But what I really like about the animation, just if you look at stills from the manga and you compare it to the anime, it's almost shot for shot a remake. Like it literally looked like, pull out the manga, look at any page, you're like, oh, that happened exactly like that in the anime. Like the producers really took their time to like look through that and just like they did everything justice like so well.
Nice, nice, yeah, yeah, and that's what's really awesome, you know. Just to see that, and it's good to know that it's almost like panel over panel. You can make an anime manga out of it. And we talk about a lot of inspiration. Let's talk about the music here. Let's start off with the opening and ending theme songs. So here's what I'm gonna say. The ending theme songs, "Heroes" by I believe Brian the Sun, I thought was really great. I loved that they played it at the end for the series. It was always something like I just thought really cool to kind of cool you down from all the high action. But let's talk about also this intro song, "The Day" by, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear me say this right if you weren't aware, Porno Graffiti. That is the name of the group. Don't ask me why, but that's what it is.
They're trying to be different, you know?
Yeah, it's really funny to see who you can trick with that, and see like I've seen so many memes where like the person's like, "Hey, what are you listening to? Oh, this song called "The Day." Oh, who's it by? Porno Graffiti. I thought it was funny, but no, I thought Porno Graffiti did a fantastic job with this song, "The Day." This song gets me hyped, and I'm gonna be honest, even though this is about season 1, I say the entrance songs, they peaked right here, because as much as I've enjoyed the other intro songs, no other intro song in My Hero Academia has got me more hyped than "The Day."
Are you kidding? Really?
Yeah.
Not even peace sign?
I liked it. I like it. Maybe it's my second favorite, but "The Day" just, oh man, it's so cool. I can't tell you how many times I've listened to it over, how many covers I've listened to it. A lot of talented artists out there on YouTube who have made covers. I've listened to it in Spanish, Japanese, English. Like, I can't get enough of this song. I love it. What any thoughts you have about the opening and intro song?
Oh, I mean, for sure, I loved it. And I guess for me, it had like a nostalgic feel to it because it was Porno Graffiti who did the intro for Full Metal Alchemist, the original one from 2003. So automatically hearing them, I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard these guys in forever. So for me, already I was watching My Hero Academia with like a nostalgic feel just because of that intro song. And I mean, I really liked it. But for me, my hype song is Peace Sign for sure. Like when I hear it, I'm like, yeah.
Oh, wow. You know, that's nice because, you know, when I first met you, I think I tagged you in a post where it showed like the little kid getting like super excited about the day, and you basically commented, "That's basically me whenever My Hero comes on." So I actually kind of thought this was your favorite. So that's interesting.
Oh, I like it. Oh, don't get me wrong. Like, yeah, I don't mean to, like, it's definitely like you said, oh, it's my second favorite. I do like it, but it's just Peace Sign. I'm like, yeah, that's my jam.
Yeah, and same thing. I love all the songs that came with it. It's just I feel like there's this I don't know. There's just something about the day that got me more hype. But yeah. And speaking of music, Yuki Hayashi, he does the music for the background soundtrack for My Hero Academia, and I think the music is great. Especially his heroic music, which I'll bring up a little bit later as we discuss certain scenes and everything. I think that was good. I think some of the songs he did was the "I'm Here," which is what when All Might would arrive. "You Say Run," which is usually I think when like Deku does something very heroic, or "Just Set Run," which plays in a very epic moment we'll definitely be talking about towards the end of this podcast review with All Might. Also, you mentioning Full Metal Alchemist a few moments ago reminds me that Bones, who is the animation production company responsible for the anime of My Hero Academia, is actually also responsible for the anime of Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And this won't be the last time in this discussion that we bring up another comparison between My Hero Academia and Full Metal Alchemist. But we're gonna go ahead and just get into the story here, My Hero Academia. So you know, talking about like the world, I think it's really cool that it's not one of these things where you have all these characters with these special powers, but they're trying to hide it away from modern civilization. Instead, in this world, all the heroes and the villains, whether you're good or evil, they all, it's just like, it's treated as the norm. It's normal for like a building to start blowing up because some big villain is attacking it, and then heroes just start breaking out fights in the streets and everything. Like could you just imagine living in this world, you know, instead of getting like, you know, the fights on World Star, you have this World Star of superheroes fighting in this. It's crazy. Like, it's crazy just to see this. I think it's really unique though. They don't hide away from it. I like that they treat it as if, you know, kind of like some are celebrities. I love how you have like All Might. He loves the camera and he's very charismatic, and then you've got people like Mr. Aizawa, who he's like, no, we just need to use our powers to save and teach the next generation of heroes, and he doesn't want any part of the media. Like, I love those different personalities. Like, I think it makes this world unique, that heroes and villains is accepted, and everybody has a quirk, some more higher than others. But I think it's really good. What do you think about just the general world of My Hero Academia?
Oh, I mean, I obviously from the start I thought it was so cool where it's like, because you've seen superhero movies all the time, like, oh, he gets bitten by a radioactive bug and now he has powers and it's secret. And then they did something, you know, with the Avengers where now multiple people have powers and they get together and they fight evil. But I mean, I really like his take on it where he was just like, oh, what if I made a world where everybody had powers, but people were still unique in their own ways. And so I really like that, you know, there's just like any power you can imagine, there's somebody out there who has one, even if it's something small, like, oh, I can float objects close to me and just slowly, like, just like random, you know, like talents you didn't think that they would have. You're like, oh, somebody out there has it, you know? And I really liked that. Like I guess like he built this world really well. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's like I said, I just more praise to Horikoshi's writing. So we're probably gonna bounce around a little bit with some of these characters here. So we'll start off with obviously the main ones first. I want to start off with, I think the biggest thing that hit me right off, and I think pretty much anything for anyone who first started watching this series, the relationship, whether it be like a father and son, or a big brother and little brother, or just a mentor and teacher, mentor and student relationship between All Might, the number one hero, and Izuku Midorya, known as Deku. I find Midoriya's story to be very relatable to a lot of people. Like, I love that they use the term fanboy in the series, and I really like Midoriya. I think he's very relatable. I think there's people out there who they feel like maybe they couldn't do something because they had to work harder. They have to really work hard. I'm gonna bring up my friend Matt Dillingham, who once did he was once here. He did the Dragon Ball Super art design podcast with me once a couple of times, and he made a post, I believe, on Facebook, something that says there are people who, I guess he was saying, didn't have as much talent or didn't have the talent or that they needed, but because they worked hard, they still found success, and they probably by all means shouldn't have been there. And that's kind of what Midoriya reminds me of. He's someone who, yeah, he his quirk, he shouldn't be in UA, but he was willing to work hard. And I think the passion that he has and just him as a character and the way he thinks, and we'll get more into that, was really interesting. I love how All Might shows up as the hero of justice, and in front of the cameras, he's big, he's mighty, he's strong, but then the really deep part of that was when he got back down to where he looked his whole, where he's like anorexic, his deformed, where he's all super skinny. Like, I was like, whoa, what the heck, when I first saw that. And I thought like one of the more powerful moments where he talked about how he's, as a hero of justice, he has to put on a smile, but deep down inside, that's just to try and keep the people happy, but he's, you know, he's depressed because, as we learned early on, his ribs, you know, where he had got an injury where they almost removed most of his stomach, and it's gotten to the point where even, you know, a mighty hero of justice like him, he has his doubts, and he tells Deku that no, you can't be a hero. But when he sees Midorya, the courage that Midorya showed when trying to rescue Bakugo, who we'll get into talk about in a few moments as well, from the sludge monster. You know, that I love that moment when he goes like, you know, that reminded me, you too can be a hero. And it just reminded me when he's saying, like, you know, you didn't have it, but you have that passion. It just, that's the stuff that I feel like it's something that can really touch for a lot of people, you know, for people who think like, you know, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe it's going to take a lot of skill. And they look at something like that. No, I can work hard and I can achieve my goals. And I really love how All Might works with Deku to get him training and get him into the shape and everything and stuff like that. Like I said, we would have to bounce around a lot here as we get into more episodes, so I'm gonna stop right now from there. But this is the first thing that really took off in My Hero Academia. What is your thoughts on Midorya and All Might's relationship?
I mean, yeah, from the very first episode, I was already hooked. Where I was just like, there's something about Deku where I don't know, like maybe because when you first see him, he's getting bullied by Bakugo, and he's kind of like, oh, he's nothing. He doesn't have a quirk. He doesn't, but he wants to be a hero, and you already kind of you associate something in your own life with it, where you're like, oh, I remember when I was younger, I wanted to be like this, and I thought I couldn't, or you know, like we all can see a little bit of ourselves in Deku, and I already thought that from the beginning, where I'm like, wow, you know, like, and he had this ambition, but people were telling him, oh, you can't do that, you're not good enough, and it's easy for us to, you know, connect with that. And then, I mean, going further with Deku and All Might was the same. He's like, oh, you're a child who, you can't do this. Like, let the professionals handle it. But then in the end, like, he was the one who ran after Bakugo with that sludge monster. And, you know, he had this courage, a courage that didn't match, like, his physical strength or his quirks, because he didn't have one, you know. So it was like his heart what mattered. And I think, you know, even in real life, you translate that to like you can try to be as strong as you want to be and whatever, but in the end, like if your spirit is weak, if you crumble, you get me, like everything about you crumbles. So when it comes to Deku, like, oh, in the first episode, I was already in tears when All Might turns to him and is like, you too can be a hero, and Deku just like bawls. I was like,
that heroic music plays.
Boy, he is my boy. He needs to be protected. Like I was already like, dude, Deku is just and you root for him from the start, you know, because we all connect with him in some way.
Definitely, well said. You know, a moment too, and like I said, I know I gotta be honest, we're gonna be scattering all over. There's so many characters in My Hero Academia, but you know, one of the parts that really I really got a lot of inspiration out of, and it hit home with me. You know, my stepfather, who's been a really great influence in my life, one of the things he always, you know, raised me was saying, you never know how by helping other people out that this is a way that goodness can come into your life. And that part that really hit me was it her name Uraraka? Right? Did I say that right?
Uraraka, yeah.
Yeah. When Deku, you know, he ended up putting it all on the line to save her from, I forget what the machines were, and he basically knew he was probably gonna fail the entrance exams, and he put his life on the line to save her. And I mean, it was really cool, epic moment when he first used his smash and blew that thing to Kingdom Kong, but he knew that he saved her, but it's probably not gonna be all right. And they really did a great job of the whole episode, like building up the tension with like all the sad depression of Deku looking sad, thinking he's not gonna even get into UA, and then he gets that DVD of All Might. He's like, it took a little while to put things, but you weren't just being tested on that. He mentioned that you were being tested as well, the ability to save a person, because that's the way you act to save a person, because that's part of being a hero too. Young Midorya, and he's like, young Midorya, you too, or what? He's like, you are now in UA or something. I don't remember the exact lines, and it ends with Deku getting in after they did such a great job of building up as if he wasn't gonna get in. I loved it. That hit hard with me because I'm like, yeah, that was one of the things I was raised with. Like, just because he went out of his way to save someone, they took that into consideration, and he was able to get into the school anyway. So, like I said, there's just so much inspiration that this can hit with you. So yeah, that was one of the big parts that stood out to me. So now we're gonna move on to one of the characters, and while we've already discussed Midorya, and we'll have a lot to talk about Midorya. I should say that I thought the way it was hilarious how when they reveal All Might's powers and that it's been passed down for generations, so he has to eat the hair just to get stronger. Like, I thought that was great. I thought the Japanese voice actor Daiki Yamashita does an amazing job. I watched the Japanese version first, went back in English. Justin Briner, I apologize.
Justin Briner. I'm not sure. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, like I said, we're sorry if our pronunciation of the names are, but we're trying to give these people props because I thought the English and Japanese versions, for the most part, are really well done. It just sounds like, oh, this is how it sounds in Japanese, and then they just now speaking in English. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, that's true.
Before we move on, anything you want to add on about the English and Japanese? Have you watched all the Japanese version?
No, not at all. Honestly, because maybe we'll get to it later on, but the only time I really watched the Japanese dub was when I caught up. Like, I was like, oh man, and the only reason I couldn't wait because it was a certain battle between two of my best boys, and I'm like, I need to see what's gonna happen, and I couldn't wait. And I was like, okay, well, I'll watch it in Japanese, it's fine, and then I'll watch it in English again. I actually haven't rewatched those episodes in English because Japanese, it's like you were saying, I watched it in Japanese and it felt exactly the same. Like, I was just like, oh, okay, this just sounds like them, but speaking Japanese. Yeah, and so I like those episodes in Japanese. So I can't speak too much. I know a lot about the English voice actors.
Well, hey, that's one of the reasons you're here, because I knew you would be very knowledgeable on the English dub, because I'm still catching up on English dub. I've only watched season 1 so far. Justin's performance as Midorya.
I will say at first I wasn't quite sure, like in the first episode, like sort of like the Kacchan, like it came off as sort of like, oh, that's annoying, and then somehow just throughout the episode it became endearing. Like his little freak outs, like like his little, like, I guess his quirk, his little quirks, like how he's but how he gets just like he's jittery and he's like unsure and his voice kind of shakes, and I don't know, somehow that became endearing. And I mean, I've heard from what I did hear in the Japanese version for the episodes that I did see in Japanese, Daiki has that too, but something about Justin, the way he does it just made me like, oh, that's my boy, like, oh, that's Midorya, So yeah, I've really been enjoying the voice acting for it, and I think that Justin Briner, I mean, he's even said that he's not like a veteran in the business, he's still new starting out, so I feel like in a lot of ways he kind of encompasses Deku, where he's growing with him, like he's becoming more confident as a voice actor, Deku's becoming more confident as a person, and you kind of hear that throughout his performance, so I'm really liking it.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually a little adjustment, because like I said, I watched the Japanese version first, so I was like, I wonder if I'm gonna get used to this, and then yeah, it just grew right on me in the first episode and everything. Hey, everybody knows I'm a Dragon Ball guy. Chris Sabat, man, I love this guy's work. I actually didn't know if I'm like, can I get used to Chris Sabat as All Might? Because when it comes to the Japanese version, he's voiced by Kenta Miyake, and he did a tremendous job as All Might. But then when I heard the type of voice that Chris Sabat was using for the English dub, I'm like, wow, I feel like Chris Sabat is really pushing his voice to the max. Here, it reminded me of Rakum. Like, he's just like, when he's talking, and then he goes into his normal voice. I'm like, I wonder, because, even like one of my coworkers, he was telling me, he said he couldn't watch the English dub because he said he couldn't take Sabat's voice serious, but that's his opinion on it.
That's funny, because at first, when I first heard him, I'm like, this is Vegeta on steroids. Like, it's some version of Vegeta. You obviously hear it right away because it's Chris Sabat, And I hear it, I'm like, but I liked it because I'm like, oh man, it's Vegeta on steroids, cool. Like, so that was my reaction to it. And obviously, you get used to it as time goes on and you're watching it.
It grew on me as well. I'm like, oh, it fits perfectly. For me, I feel like I hear a lot of his raccoon voice in it. But yeah, I think maybe
raccoon.
Yeah, maybe I just had to get used to it. And now that I'm following Full Metal Alchemist, what is it, Louis Armstrong? Now I'm hearing a lot too.
He does Louis Armstrong.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, it's been so long.
Yeah. But let's move on to our next character here, who's one of the main characters is talking about. So, instead of me giving the recap, I feel that it's also appropriate that I give you the floor for this recap. So, we're going to go ahead here and break down, hopefully I say this right, Katsuki. Okay, see? This is why another reason she's here. I'll tell you, folks, she's much better at Japanese than I am.
Why? Thank you.
Bakugo, aka Kacchan, but I think most of us are gonna call him Bakugo. But you've been in a very positive manner outspoken about this individual to me, saying he's your boy. So go ahead.
He is my boy.
Go ahead and let us know about it. You can cover everything up till the Deku and their first fight, because we'll go into that into the next section. But let us know about the character Bakugo.
Okay, I mean Bakugo, it's tough because without
season one, you're like,
that's what I'm saying, without taking into account the other seasons, because he grows. So season 1, I can't say he was my boy in season 1 because I was like, your boy is a bully. Your boy needs to be like put in his place.
Yeah. I guess I should have said this is like a first impression. Yeah, your first impression of Bakugo.
My first impression of Bakugo right away. Obviously, I was like, man, what is this kid's problem? Like, dude, and he's like, go kill yourself, Deku. Like, who cares? Like, you're not gonna be a hero. I'm like, this smug kid. Like, somebody needs to put him in his place and whatever. And then obviously that whole thing happened with like the monster. And then I started saying like, oh, maybe Bakugo's sort of like a Tsurunde, because he came up to Deku's like, hey, I didn't need your help or anything. But it was like, didn't you though? Because like without Deku kind of stepping in, like, because you were captured, like that's just what it was. So automatically from the start, I was just like, ugh, like he's sort of, I didn't really like him. Like, oh, Bakugo, like, oh, this guy, oh, this kid again, he's on screen. Like I was like, and it lasted like that for a while, and then things started changing. I think I started to find him sort of like, and this is still the first season, like, even though he was arrogant, something made me started to be drawn by him. Like, I'm trying to think when it first starts, like when he's like, oh, I can do that easy. I can do it. Like something about that confidence. It's like, hey, he's a jerk, but he's confident in his abilities and he's got it. Like, he's not just boasting like, I bet I can do that, and then he loses. Like, he's like, I can do that, and then he can. So there's something about like just the way he was where I was like, all right, okay, that's okay. But in real life, I wouldn't want, like, no, this character's so annoying. Like if he was a real life guy, I'd be like, listen, buddy, like, so at first I was like, Katsuki, I don't know. Bakugo's kind of And then just seeing him grow. That's why I don't know. I can't talk too much about because we're not talking about the second and third season, right?
Right. I think you covered it well though for like a first impression. You could save the rest of it when we get to seasons 2 and 3 and later podcasts.
Yeah, I will say this though. I to this day I still don't get it. But like from the start, his hatred, or like he's just like, Deku, I can't believe he's here. I can't believe this useless, this whatever. There's something, I think when I look at Bakugo and his like unwarranted hatred for Deku, just like, you guys are best friends, what happened? And I always kept thinking like, what is the matter with you? Like, you guys grew up together, what changed so drastically? And I just think that on some level, like, Deku's weakness as he saw it was like almost like a reflection to Bakugo, like, I don't want to be that weak, I don't want to be like that. So he started hating Deku for like almost like they say, if there's something you hate in somebody else, like you're like, I hate that this person, like, I don't know, she's always such a gossiper, or she's always like this. In some version of yourself, you might have been a gossiper, or you might have been, you know, like the kind of person that kind of spread that negativity. So when you see that in some other people now, even if you've changed, you sort of look back and you sort of like hate that weakness. You understand?
Oh,
So
yeah.
then almost when I connect it to Bakugo, I think he looks at Deku like like, who are you, you little weak little whatever. Like it's like almost like he's projecting his own insecurity. Like Bakugo's afraid to be weak and Bakugo's afraid to be vulnerable. So he hates when people are. Like it's almost like this like manifestation of this like negativity that he carried with him, you know? So I think I started looking at Bakugo more like that. Like you just unnecessarily hate Deku for no reason. I think this is a you problem. It's not Deku's fault. It's yours. Like something's going on with you. So then, yeah, that's all I can really say about Bakugo in the first season. Yes.
That was very well said.
I like saying Bakugo. It sounds cool. And Bakugo is from like the Japanese kanji for like explosion. So I'm like, ooh, that's why I like Bakugo. It's just like, that's your name.
Told you
I know,
folks, you
goes
know
well with
more
it.
better Japanese than I do.
I
But
mean, not much, but you know, I do know my boy, and my boy's kanji is it comes from explosion.
and the thing is with Bakugo, I'll be honest, when I my first impression was I'm just sitting here, dude needs his butt whooped. That's literally what I was looking at. And you know, early on, the thing about Bakugo, and I will say, if it probably wasn't for you, I wouldn't have probably been so patient with the character, honestly, because I remember when we first met, you kept telling me that you know, especially when you get to season 3, there's something that happens and stuff, and then my friend started telling me, he's like, oh yeah, when you get to season 2 and 3, you're gonna see, like, okay, I'm like, I'm give the character a chance here, but I couldn't stand the way he treated Deku.
Yeah, he certainly made it hard. Yeah.
So I really want the guy to get his butt kicked. But interestingly enough, and I'm not saying, obviously, I'm not trying to say Bakugo is Frieza or anything, but I remember like in Dragon Ball Super, in the Tournament of Power, which I know you'll see, it was just, even though Frieza's this evil character, seeing him being sadistic, knowing he's fighting on the side with the good guys, I'm rooting like, yeah, because y'all don't know how bad Frieza is. I kind of get like that with Bakugo. Like, even though, yeah, Bakugo could be a jerk, when he's being a jerk to the villains, I love it. I'm cheering. I'm like, yeah. He did something like, I think, was it, oh man, I forgot his name, the mist guy. Is it Kurogiri? There's a cool part where I remember towards the end of the season, Kacchan gets him down, and then he goes ahead and says, "Don't move! You try anything funny and I'll blow your ass up right now. You got it? They'll be cleaning you up for weeks." And I'm like, oh! He says something like that, but I love it, dude. I literally, man, I get super hyped when he's like just being a jerk to the villains.
Yeah.
So
And that's what I'm saying. Like his talk ain't cheap. Like he's like, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna whatever. And then he's gonna go for it. Like he's not just all talk. Like he's not all bark, no bite. He's bark and bite. And that's what I started to like a little bit about him, but almost like, oh, I found him just entertaining. I'm like, oh, look at this angry dog. Like, oh, you know, I found him entertaining in a way. And then, you know, obviously the respect came later. And then the love came later.
and you know, there's one was like, I remember like his friend was telling him like they gotta go help, you know, save the rest of the students, and he's like, he's gonna just go ahead and try to get back at Kurogiri. But I remember there was a point his friend was telling them, he was saying that, oh wait man, I think I kind of get it. What you're saying is, it's not you don't want to help them, it's just you're very confident in them that they will be all good, so you'll rather just go after the main guy. He said, look at you being a man, Bakugo. I always thought you'd be more like, you know, die, but instead you're all like calm and relax here. And he's like, I'm always like that, you idiot.
Oh wait, so are you thinking of Kirishima?
I think it is. I'm trying to remember the name. He has the red hair.
Yeah, red hair and he hardens. Oh, I love Kirishima.
Yeah.
Such a sweet boy.
Yeah, he has the same voice actor as Yusuke Urameshi, but we'll get to him soon. But before we get into the rest of the characters, let's talk about the rivalry. In a lot of these shonen mangas, there's always got to be a rivalry. We've had Son Goku and Vegeta, Hiei and Yusuke, Naruto and Sasuke. And here we have Midorya and Bakugo. This rivalry to me is very interesting. It really took me a few times to actually watch this over and over, to season 1 and season 2 and 3, and just even going back and watch. I did go back and watch the first fight for a third time in season 1, and the backstory is very interesting. Like you were mentioning earlier, he probably sees, you know, how weak Deku looked to him, and he didn't want to be that. What I find fascinating about their rivalry is, to me, I think I can chop it all up now just from what I can see. It almost seems like a misunderstanding to me, because from Deku's perspective, he admires Bakugo's powers, and that's what he wants to reach at. He wants to be like that. Yet, from Bakugo's perspective, he feels like, oh, so Deku, you're just, you know, you're, what? It was like, when he's like, you're basically, you're holding back on me. You tricked me and all that. He's like, no, I just did it because, you know, that's just what I had to. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Wow.
And he's like, stop looking down on me. Like, what?
I'm like,
no.
Wow. And this goes on in far exceeds season 1. I'm like, wow, it's just one big giant misunderstanding here.
Yeah.
And it's like it's like you almost want to see, like, hey, both of you are great. Just go ahead and reach for it. But at the same time, we learn later on that this is something that definitely pushes them. But we're gonna stick to just season 1 here and talk about the first fight.
Yeah, that's what's tough. It's hard to talk about
right.
About Deku and Bakugo without going further than this season.
Yeah. So just sticking here to season 1 though, the first fight between them. The first moment I had where I actually got out of my seat and I was yelling like, oh, when Bakugo goes for, was it like a punch, and Deku grabs his arm and flips him over on his back, and he's like, I'm not afraid of you anymore. I'm like, yeah! In professional wrestling, it's called a mark out moment, where you're like marking out, you know, because of whatever wrestler just came over, and that was that moment for me. That was that moment for me, because I'm like, yeah, put him on his back. But you really see how truly great of a fighter Bakugo is, the way he kept adapting to Midorya, like jumping over him, and he kept shooting him in the back, but he went overboard, just blowing up, and they were pleading, the students were pleading with all might, stop the fight, and he's losing track of the mission, because I think he was teaming up with Iida, and Uraraka was trying to get to the rocket that they had to get in, and he's totally just ignoring the mission.
Yeah,
and
that was when he was supposed to be a villain, right?
Yeah.
They broke off into teams. Yeah, okay. I'm just making sure.
And the thing about that fight, though, what I really love, and you see this all through, is Midoriya's ability to strategize. He is a complete expert at strategy, and the way he did the notes, even All Might's like, all that time being he's like, all that time, young Midoriya, being being a fanboy has really paid off. So that's another thing I really like, you know, because I think another thing that's, once again, so relatable about Midorya. I mean, how many people have come to you, like, whether you were like, oh, you play the video games too much, but that love is what made you a game designer. Now you're living your dream. Oh, you guys like to act and play too much. You can't make a career out of that. Now you're in acting. You know, how many times has there been, you know, people who look down on you for doing something that you love, and now you made a career out of it. And that's what I loved about this, because it sort of shows you, like, no, like, so what if he's a fanboy and he goes crazy over the superheroes? He took that knowledge and applied it, and look how good of a fighter he's turned out to be. I freaking love it, man. I love it.
Exactly, yeah. And his, like, attention to detail, he writes down, like, every little thing he knows about them in his notebook and all this stuff. Like, wow, like, he's such a smart guy.
How poetic was it that because I could not stand when Bakugo grabbed his notebook and threw it in the water, but I think that was like the same notebook that he had wrote notes and studied all of Bakugo's moves, and now he was finally able to apply that. That was so epic. And the way he worked the strategy at the end, like, he used one arm to block Bakugo's explosion, and used the other one to use his smash that would shoot all the way up to the top of the building, and then that's how Uraraka was able to, you know, use her floating technique to throw the rocks at Iida, distract him, and then she basically hugged or latched onto into the rocket, and they won. I was like, yo, this is
I know.
sick. I love the strategy. Like, that's the thing. Every episode keeps getting better and better. Like, I thought this was really great. And I was like, yes, Bakugo needs to be humbled. And this is like his first humbling lesson. But at the end, I was like, you don't owe him a dang thing, Midorya. You don't tell him. And I was so hoping that it was just as All Might said. Well, it looks like he didn't take it too serious. But when we eventually get to our season 3 review, we'll have to bring this back up. But that being said, though, what was your thoughts on the first fight between Midorya and I love the blending of intense action but great story. So there's more to it than just these fights. These are fights that have meaning behind them.
Well, I mean, obviously, first of all, I found it kind of funny just because everybody from the start's like, this kid, he wants to be a hero? No, like, he should be a villain. He should be a villain, whatever. And then for this fight, he was put on the villain team, and I was like, so it was already, for me, kind of just, like, comic to see him, like, Katsuki being that villain that everybody thinks he is. He played it so well, So first of all, that was just funny. And then for me, I was surprised because because this is still the first season, you're getting a feel for the character. So for me, I thought Deku would be like, oh, I can't do it. And Bakugo is stronger than me and whatever. And the way that Deku turned around and he's like, no, like, I'm not afraid. I'm going to go for it and whatever. Like, Deku keeps surprising me at every turn. When I think, oh, no, he's too weak for this or he can't do this, he turns around and does it. And I'm like, oh. So I'm just seeing him like grow in these little moments, So for me, when I saw the fight, I was like, yeah, get it. Like, so that first fight, it was exciting to watch.
It's like Courage the Cowardly Dog, kind of, and that's how I love about this character. I love that he visually shows that, yes, he is afraid, but he's not going to back down. He still has the heart, and I think, people have that moment in life where they might be afraid to do something, but they know they've got to do this, and they're going to still, go through and everything, and be, and show courage. And I think, once again, that's something that makes Deku very relatable. Somebody could be looking at Deku and be like, wow, he's afraid, but he's still gonna go ahead and fight.
Yeah, it's so funny that you would compare him to Courage because it's so true. Because like Courage the Cowardly Dog's like, and he's always like screaming and running to do stuff, but he does it anyway and he protects Mirio and all this stuff. So that's so funny. Like and that comparison.
And Bakugo's like Houston's booga booga booga. You're stupid. You're stupid, Deku. You make me look bad. There you guys have it. We're out here comparing the Deku and Bakugo feud rivalry to Houston's versus Courage. All right. This is the part where me and you talked about this a little bit, where I was like, and if you look, we're like almost an hour into this review, and it is mostly centered around Bakugo, Midorya, and All Might. And I think one of the things I tell you, if I had one little, like, at least close, not, I guess it shouldn't be a major complaint, but if I had one thing to say, I was like, I think Kohei Horikoshi starts you off with way too many characters in season 1, because I'm like, I don't remember most of these people's names. I had to put all these hours of notes together just to keep it together for this podcast. And I was like, I mentioned, like, if you look at like the beginning of Dragon Ball, Kira Toriyama starts you off with Son Goku, Bulma, and then gradually introduces Yamcha and Chaozu and Tenya and all the characters as you go along. So even with like Naruto and other shows, like, they start you off with a few set of characters here, and they just throw all these characters and all these pro heroes, and like, and they do the descriptions of all the quirks. I'm like, I can't keep up. So, but we'll go through these characters here. Did you want anything to add about that, with all the characters that were thrown to you at season 1?
I mean, I agree, but I guess in the context it made sense. Like, oh, now they're in class, so there's a bunch of classmates, and they like pro heroes, and here's a bunch of pro heroes. So in the context, it made sense, but I was the same way, where even now I'm like, oh, you're talking about Tailboy, or you're talking about this. I forget their names, because if they're not a favorite of mine, I forget it. I'm like, oh, okay, it's that one kid. I recognize them, but they don't matter to me. Not like Bakugo, or like you see Shoto, you're like, oh, okay, that you know who they are, but then with the ones that don't get as much screen time, you're just like, yeah. But you'll see people online that are like super into these characters, and they're the ones who remember, certain, like every single person or like certain characters are there. So I don't know. I mean,
and it's funny
yeah.
too. It's not that My Hero Academia, the amount of characters they have is very similar to the amount of characters you'll find in a lot of other shonen anime and manga. I mean, look at how many characters there are in Naruto, but yet I feel like I could remember a lot of those characters' name, but they were gradually introduced as the series went on. And I just wanted to point out too is that for voice acting wise, Nobuhiko Akamoto does the Japanese voice of Bakugo. I thought thought he was awesome, and Clifford Chapin does the English voice. But I didn't know if I was gonna get used to Bakugo's voice at first, but I liked it. How did you like his voice as Bakugo?
I think, because I think, what's his name, Nobuhiko, he does a good job as well. Obviously, I mean, if you hear the regular voice actor, the way he talks versus how he acts as Bakugo, it's so different. And but I just think he goes a little bit over the top in Japanese, at least for what I heard. Like he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
It sounds a lot.
Deku.
Yeah, Deku.
Yeah.
Like it's so extreme. Whereas I really like Clifford. The way he does it. There's gravel in there. Yeah. Hey, Deku, what are you doing, idiot? Like it's more like that angriness, but then the gravel comes a little bit. Whereas, Akamoto, he really focuses on the gravel, like Deku. Like to me, it's a bit much sometimes. But again, I didn't get used to the Japanese version because I was watching the English dub. But I just remember. Okay, that's the third season. Never mind. I was like, the episode I did see, I was blown away by his performance. It was really good. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, very well said. So we're going to go ahead and probably spend the next hour plus here breaking down the majority of the UA Class 1 students and some of the UA staff and villains as well. So definitely won't be getting to every single character, but we'll go ahead and cover most of them right here before we end up getting to the main event of All Might versus Noumu. So now let's go ahead and begin starting with Shoto Todoroki.
Shoto, yeah.
Yeah, arguably one of the most, I would imagine, popular characters in this entire series. I've talked to some fans who, that's their favorite one. I know he's very often cosplayed as well. However, as we were mentioning, so many characters introduced to you at once. I really don't got too much to say about Todoroki for season 1. See, season 2 is where I'll have a lot more to say. And but if I'm just going based on season 1, I thought he just seemed like really chilled and laid back. Didn't have really too much personality to him. I liked his design, the white and red. And even then, I don't think Bakugo really half and half bastard he calls him or something. but that's all in season 2. So like I can't really go based on much. But during what was it?
USJ?
USJ? Yeah, USJ.
Okay, yeah, that's when he shined for sure.
Yeah, when USJ, that's where we got our first looks at his powers. So I really love the whole blend of fire and ice and everything season 1. So and that's one of the things you said it made sense in the contents. They did throw a lot of characters at you, but they just had to be there just so they can get more explored in season 2. But we did get to see what I think we needed to see from him, which is their powers, and that's basically what season 1. It was a showcase of his powers and his intelligence, and he was right there in the end in the final battle with All Might looking on. Now I don't remember this, but wasn't it so that he was so good that he got to like skip and just automatically go right into UA? Was he the student?
I don't know that he got to skip because he was highly recommended.
Highly recommended.
I think.
Okay.
So I don't know
yeah.
when it came to the entrance exam, quote unquote, whatever. I think he didn't have to take it, or maybe I'm remembering it wrong. But he was highly recommended, so he could have he was already gonna get in. So even if he hadn't taken the test, I can't remember. He didn't take the test in the first episode, did he?
Yeah, I don't remember. Sorry, we're trying to go on the base on the top of our mind. I just remember someone was really I think got to skip something, but
it was him and it was Momo. That's what I remembered. The girl who can
they were highly
create
recommended,
stuff.
right?
Yeah, they were highly recommended, and I think what I remember, they still took the test, but it in like I guess it didn't matter, like they were still gonna get in or something. I don't know. I'd have to recheck that, but yeah.
But
With Shoto.
I was gonna say though, I thought Todoroki, it was a good introduction to his powers. That's the most I can say about season 1. I'll have a lot more to definitely say season 2 and 3, where he got a much better character development. And the voice acting I thought was fine for both. I think was it Yuki Kaji? I may have got it, or I think did his voice in English. David. I'm gonna.
Machenga.
Yeah, I was gonna try and pronounce his last name, but I'm like, I don't want to even butcher
Matrenga,
it.
that's how I'm gonna do it.
But yeah, I thought they did a good job. Before we move on to the next character, any thoughts you have on Todoroki season 1?
Oh yeah, okay. So season 1, let me put myself in that mindset. So I'm thinking when I first, he was just that typical brooding character, like, oh, stay out of my way. I'm so amazing. Like at least that's what I felt. Even if he didn't say that out loud, he just like. He's like, oh, I'm so good. I don't have time for you guys. I'm so, So that's the way I looked at him. And then obviously the time I even turned my head to care about him was during USJ, where I'm like, whoa, he is going head to head with pros and he's winning easily. Like, he's just like, you guys can't beat a kid. I'm a kid and I'm beating you. Right. I'm like, dang, like, woof. So I started liking him then. Because I will say, obviously from the get-go, I liked Deku. And then my second that I liked was Shoto. Like right away, I was like, hey, I like this kid. And then when you find out more about him, obviously I liked him more. But for season 1, I will say his brooding was like sort of like that typical character. Like it was sort of like irritating almost like and then, like I said, he really shined through the USJ incident.
Right, and I like when he even went up to Shigaraki, one of your poorly trained henchmen told me your whole plan. You're here to stop all my, like, that just so, dude just shows right up and tells you, like, you're poorly trained. I'm like, I love it. I'm like, man.
Yeah, and I guess it's weird. Well, looking back at it, he almost reminds me of Bakugo, but, like, his rudeness is soft. Right. Like, Bakugo's like, you're an idiot and I'll kill you. And Shoto's like, you're beneath me. I can easily kill you. Right. But it's a different kind of like pompousness, whereas Bakugo's in your face, but Shoto's just like silently better than you. Right. He looks at him. So yeah, Shoto's definitely like that in the first one.
Our next.
Yeah, next.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say our next character we're gonna talk about here is Toru Hagakure. If I said that name? Hagakure.
Yeah, pretty good.
So I feel that she really didn't do all that much in season 1, but let me tell you, I feel that out of all of Kohei Horikoshi's character designs, this was his best design, hands down. I think she looks absolutely, has the coolest design.
She's so beautiful.
The coolest character, man. It's like I agree. She is so beautiful. It's like we can't even see her.
I can't look away. Yeah, literally.
Literally, right.
Literally like that. It's like somehow I feel like I'm looking through her, like when I look at her. Like exactly. I just feel like, we're connecting like that.
And for those who have a very vague memory of who we're talking about, she's basically the invisible girl. Now I'm gonna be honest. The thing about this character from season 1, I was like, wait, her quirk is invisibility, so she's basically a normal human being that the only thing special about her is she's invisible. So I'm like, is she a good fighter or like what? And I realize she's just there for comedy relief. I think there's one point where she's I don't know if it was season 1 or season 2. She's undressing and they're like, don't look. Like, what?
Oh, it was season 1, I think, during the whole that when they're playing like villains and heroes or whatever. Wasn't it during that? She had to take off her clothes to be naked, and she's like, "Don't look at me!" And it was like, "Oh, okay, we can't say anything anyway."
I remember they saying that someone was shooting one of their quirks or whatever, their attacks, and at the end, she was thanking them and said, because she thought they were strategizing with her without talking to her, and someone just goes like, "To be honest, I didn't even know she was there. I could have heard her."
Yeah.
I was cracking up. She's got to be there. She's totally there for comedy relief. Just literally like.
For sure.
I go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, although I mean, because I always saw her as, oh, she's just like useless, like look at whatever. But then there's theories going around that she's the reason why, and there's another theory that it might have been a different character. But there's one theory going around that it was Toru that she's working with the villains, and she let them know that they were at USJ because how else could they have known? There must have been a mole. It might have been one of the students. It must have been her. So there's a theory going around with that. So then ever since that happened, I'm iffy on her. Like I'm like, I don't know what to feel. Like I can't look at her as comic relief because I'm like, I don't know what you are. And there's another character too, but we'll talk about that I guess when we get to him.
Yeah, but I tell you what though, I gotta be honest, drawing her, this has got to be some of the best. I bet he just absolutely loves when he has to draw this character for a manga page. He's like, oh, good, I can move right to the next panel.
I saved the ink.
Hey, me and you are both inspiring voice actors. If we had to voice act a character like this, because, you know, in voice acting, you have to match the mouth flaps in there.
Oh, yeah,
here we get
flaps.
full freedom to just go all out with our lines. Like, seriously, even in not just anime dubbing, but just even traditional ADR dubbing, sometimes you might deliver a certain line with maybe one of the words having a little bit longer of a duration, and it was a great delivery. But unfortunately, it did not match the mouth movements or mouth flaps for anime. And so you gotta go back and do that line over again so that it's a match. But with a character like this, that's out the door. Your only concern is the time, and not so much the time plus the mouth flaps. So, you know, I would just find it really interesting to hear interviews with, let's see, the Japanese voice actor, Kari Nazuka, and the English voice actor.
Kari Nazuka, yeah.
Okay, and the English voice actress Felicia Angel. Hey, I bet they absolutely have a blast voice acting this character because it's like an easy day on the job. So yeah. All right, now this is another character. I'm gonna let you take the floor with this one. So as you all probably could find out by now, Rebecca Beck says that Bakugo is her boy. But my understanding is, while you said that Bakugo is your boy, you said when it comes to Minoru Mineta, he's the man. So go ahead and let us know.
How dare you? How dare you say that to me? How dare you?
See, no. I wanted your exact reaction.
This grape come to life needs to go.
I told you before we started recording, there's going to be two characters I'll let you take the floor with, and I just couldn't wait to get your reaction on that one. So yeah, if to let everybody know out there listening, so yeah, Rebecca Beck has been very outspoken about this character. She can't stand this character, a complete disgrace.
It's true.
A lot of that really comes to play in season 2, but first, go ahead and let us know season 1 on Mr. Grapes. We'll say Grapes. Your first impression from season 1 that you got of him.
From season 1, I'm trying to put myself from the start. I didn't like him at all, and it's like Kohei, when he made this character, was like, okay, how can I, let me channel everyone's hatred and everyone's just like negativity into this one character. Like, I feel like if you're like iffy about other characters, like, oh, that character's okay, that one's whatever. Everyone, like, absolutely everybody agrees Mineta is just trash. Like, no, like the way that, oh, he's just one of those characters again, like, oh, I really like these girls. Oh, they're so cute. And like, from the start, you can't stand this little grape come to life. And I think, like, I'm sure maybe in the first season I wasn't like this. Like, I was like, oh, that kid again. Oh, he has screen time. Like, I can see he's just trying. He's supposed to be the comic relief. And then, you know, and like I said, I think he just channels the hatred. Like if nobody hates any other character, everybody goes for this one, you know. So it's like he takes the burden of all the hatred or something. But so I think in the first season, I was just like, oh, okay, all right, he's here again. But as things go on, I just can't stand him. I hate, and it's like, you think, oh, you're gonna find out his backstory, and maybe I might care about him. I can't stand him more after the backstory. Like it just, ugh, everything about it. He needs to go. He needs to go.
One character you don't mind dying in a future season or
Literally,
chapter.
if he did, I'd be like, oh, okay, bye. Like,
all right. Mineta. I guess he's the comedy relief pervert character.
Well.
I can see even the voice could be irritating. Yeah, him sitting up there crying, and even Sue asking, are you really sure this is cut out for you? And while everybody's like, all the other students are being strong, like, yeah, I know they were afraid, but they're not showing it. And he's freaking out, crying. The biggest thing that stood out to me, which is one of my favorite comedy moments in the entire series, is when all three of them, Deku, Sue, and Mineta are both basically they're trying to strategize how they're going to take on the enemies in the water. And you have Sue, she very intelligently breaks down that, hey, she can do anything that a frog can do, and Deku very intelligently breaks down that, yeah, he can use his smash, but it will end up disabling his arm. And then they look at Mineta, and he's like, well, I have these cool balls that I can take off my head, stick them to things, and that's it. And they just give him the most hilarious looking poker face, and he just goes like, I knew it, I'm useless. I was cracking up. But it did come in handy, making people, they like, hey, we couldn't get this off of me, and it was a great way of them getting out. And she even says at the end, both of you are incredible and stuff. Is like, which I probably pained you to hear her say that, or maybe not as much because you didn't know as much back then. In terms of the character.
Time. And I'm not saying his quirk can be useful. It can be, but just him as a character, I don't care for him, so I don't care about his quirk. I'm like, so ugh.
Yeah, I don't blame you for it. But I do think Rio and Rina does.
Oh yeah.
I think they do a great job with the voices, though.
Yeah, all things considered,
and everything. Now moving on to who I think is definitely one of the more interesting characters, Momo Yaoyorozu. She's the girl that basically, honestly, and I should have actually stated this, I feel some of these characters either sound or look a lot older than what they are.
Oh, amen. That's so true.
She definitely is one of them. And so she has like that cool like spiky ponytail, but her quirk is very interesting, creation. So she can create anything, basically, like, all right, she just touches it and she can create it into it and make it into something. So I think it's really cool, and we got to see that on display. How it ripped her top off or whatever, I have no idea. That's more of that fan service. If you guys remember, like Dragon Ball Super Broly, Chilai, the things they do in anime.
Yeah.
And I did think it was funny when they were trying to cover her up, and they thought the other guy was looking, but he was like, but he gets mentally disabled. We'll get to him soon from electricity. But yeah, once again, another character who I think we'll have more to say about when we get to season 2 and 3 with her character development. She definitely is one of the characters that I like, and I think is a lot more interesting, especially with the way she strategizes in battle. Yeah, I think Colleen Clickenbeard, I know she does Gohan's voice in Dragon Ball Kai, and Marina Inao in the Japanese version. I thought they do fantastic jobs. Anything you like to add on about Momo?
I'm trying to think, because for the first season, she didn't make much of an impression. I just thought she was one of those, like, oh, she's going to be the class president girl. Because she was, like we were saying before, she was one of the people who had a recommendation. Like, oh, she's so good. So I just thought she was going to be that typical kind of character. And then, like you were saying before, I found it kind of just annoying. To me at first, she just seemed like a fan service character. Like, oh, let's get a 15-year-old who for some reason needs to be half naked to use her quirk, although she kind of technically didn't have to be.
Yeah, it's just that like really disturbing. Whether it be a call from Bones or Horikoshi, the fact that they are putting sexualized scenarios with characters that are 15 years old.
And people forget that, like, straight up. And that's why when I saw her outfit that she's wearing, I'm like, there's no reason it had to be that skimpy. He just did it because he could do it. Like
Fan
that was
service.
Kohei.
That's what they.
That's what I'm
want.
saying. Fan service, and I don't really like that. I'm like,
I just
oh.
find it. I just find it weird that they're doing it with a 15-year-old. I'm like,
Yeah, it's not even one of the pro heroes, and I mean they get worse maybe with the pro heroes with gosh, I forget her name, but it's one of the teachers that like her like when she
Midnight?
releases her scent. Is it Midnight?
Midnight or
Yeah, I think
not
that
late or
yeah, it is
something, I
Midnight.
forget.
Well, obviously they get more so with her, where she's like, "Oh yeah, this is really like this is a really thin material, and I could easily rip it off and stuff." So then it gets worse. But I'm like, dude, Momo's supposed to be 15, and right away you can tell where you're like, "Come on, you do not look 15." You know?
Yeah, but hey, you know what? As coming from a Dragon Ball fan, we've seen Toriyama do much, much, much worse. Early Dragon Ball. If anyone's ever seen early Dragon Ball, I highly advise be very, very cautious if you're gonna let your kids watch early Dragon Ball, and I'm talking about early. Now
yeah, so Momo, yeah, I mean, obviously later on I'm like, wow, the creation quirk is really cool, but in the beginning it was almost like, okay, so what? Like it just didn't, I don't know, she didn't stand out too much in the first season.
one of the more popular characters we come to now is Tsuyu Asui, if I said that right. She's basically the frog girl, and now I think she stands out. And she was one of the characters that actually got a little bit of development in season 1. We talked about earlier when how she strategized and how she's able to use her quirk and everything and do everything that a frog does. A very unique voice, especially this is really high praise. Like when I'm talking about the Japanese and the English version sounding almost like they're just switching the languages.
Oh yeah.
Ao Yuki and Monica Riao, who I know a lot of people who follow Dragon Ball are going to know from as Bulma in the Dragon Ball Kai and Super dubs. They both do a fantastic job. It's like if you were on your Blu-ray and you switch it from English and Japanese, it sounds like the exact same voice, just one talks in Japanese, one English. Hey, shout out, by the way, to our good friend Daphne on Twitter at the only Nitsuga. That's spelled TheOnlyNitsuga on Twitter, because she does an amazing impression. I remember that. So yeah, definitely check her out on Twitter, and I'll definitely make sure to leave a link to both Daphne's Twitter and website in the description below. But and that's one of the things about this character. Her voice is unique. She has a really unique design. Like who would ever thought of a frog? You know, you just think of a frog, and then she's one of the most unique characters I think here. And I thought the way she was utilized and how she was able to play her role in Deku and Mineta, getting away from all those villains in the water, and how she brought up and strategized that, if they knew she was a frog type, he wouldn't have sent her over to the water. So yeah, I actually thought they made a nice little impression with this character. We get more from her later on. There's even a filler episode that was dedicated to her, I think, in the next season. But what was your first impression of her?
I mean, she's definitely a fan favorite. For me, at least, the first season, I mean, even going on, but I'll just talk about for the first season, I didn't care much for her. And I know you're saying like, oh, she has a unique character design and stuff. That is true. She does have a unique character design. It just wasn't one that I cared for. Whereas other people saw her and they're like, I've only seen her for like 2 seconds, but I would already die for the frog girl and all this stuff. And I'm like, really? What? Like, she's okay, but people just really like the design. And like, obviously her character, like, oh, she's smart. She's, she was able to, like you said, oh, she helped Deku and Mina to get out of this. Like, she's not useless by any means. And I think that, going forward as a pro hero, you definitely see she has the potential in the first season. But that being said, I didn't care much for her. Like, I was like, oh, okay. All right, there's Tsuyu. All right. And I see that, she definitely became a fan favorite. Like you said, they made like her own episode, her own filler episode. Like there's so much fan art about her. And then you see how her character develops later on. But I didn't care for that development. Almost like I just felt like she was so overrated. but I never hated her. Like I was like, oh, okay, there she is. But I just never understood this like this infatuation that everybody seems to have with her. Like I don't know how you necessarily feel. Like, do you really like her, or is she just sort of like there for you?
A cool character, a cool side character. She's not one of my favorites, but definitely as we've gone through here, I could definitely say I had a lot more things to say positive about it, like other than just a cool character design. Like I was like, there's a lot of unique cool things about the character, of course, but from a story standpoint, we haven't gotten as much. I think she's in the middle. I think she's a really good side character. That's basically the way I put it.
I can agree.
The way you speak about her, though, almost sounds the way I felt about the Broly character back in Dragon Ball. And, as I mentioned, like, to me, Broly was like, I thought he was cool, but I didn't think he was as cool as the way the fan base brought him out. But now I freaking love Broly after that Super movie, but that's in Dragon Ball. But that's what it reminded me of, the way you just broke that down, your thoughts on it. So, yeah, it's cool. And then let's see, Tenya Iida, character, another character I like. One of the characters that actually does get development, just because it seems he becomes one of the best friends with it looks like with Deku. And early on it looked like they weren't gonna be friends early on, but then he really he takes things very serious, and he's very stern, or no, I don't know if stern's the right word, but he's very serious in his points, and really like does everything by the books. I think kind of like that. I could actually relate a little bit to the character, because I myself, when I structure things out, I'm like, okay, all right, we'll schedule this for that, and this will be that, and then I'm like it kind of reminds me of myself a little bit. So that's one of the characters I'm actually kind of able to relate to a little bit, just in like how we would like order or things, or like follow things to be set out. So I thought the character was pretty cool. I freaking lost it the way he got into the role of the villain, because when we get to the villain, I'm gonna talk about how, unlike Iida here, the villain that we're going to speak about later on was not the personification of a cookie cutter villain. You will never get that rocket because you have to touch it in order to make it float, but I will not let you. Yeah, I loved it. And even Raka is like, he's really getting into it. I think it's really cool, and I loved his backstory, that he wants to like follow in his brother's footsteps. And I loved how he became like, because like he became like the class leader or something like that. I love that episode, and how he was the one through all of the commotion and chaos, how he was able to find out. And what I like too about this character, there are some things like I know, like there's times like you might have someone who maybe they're the more powerful one, or maybe they're the faster one, or maybe they're more talented in a certain area. However, they're not exactly the best one to lead. And I really like that even though he's not the main character, he is the one that is fitting to lead. I really like that about the character. So yeah, I really enjoyed him in season 1, and we get more development with him in season 2. But yeah, what about Iida? What is your thoughts on him?
Oh yeah, for me, just in the beginning, he was just the classic textbook character, like, oh, class, now everyone in your seats, and you must look like this and whatever. Like he's just like that, anal, I guess, sort of character that you would expect to be the class rep. And I didn't see much about him. I will say at first, I didn't like his quirk, like just I guess the look of it. Yeah, when I'd look down at his feet and I would see that, it was just like, I don't know, it bothered me, where I'm like, he's got engines coming out of his calves, he's got engines coming out of his calves. Like, I don't know why I was like fixated on it. I didn't really like it. But like later on in other seasons, I've come to like respect the quirk, and it like he uses it well, and it's really cool and everything. But yeah, in the first season, I didn't think much of Iida. He was just there, and I was shocked, like you said, sort of like, oh, I didn't expect him to be friends with Deku. I don't know how that happened. Like, even looking back, I'm like, oh, it happened. And I don't remember really, it was like a gradual thing. But yeah, I'm like happy to have him be in like I guess the close knit circle of Deku. Cause it's like, I mean, as the seasons go on, he becomes more important, and you start to see like what makes him tick and stuff. So, yeah, I like Tenya. Just in the first season, he was just kind of there. but I did like him later on.
And I like the little trio that him and Uraraka and Midorya kind of form as a friendship and everything. I thought that was really cool. And I think Kaito does a great job, Japanese voice actor, J. Michael Thompson, who I actually met during the Bang Zoom Entertainment panel last year. So that was cool meeting him and to see that he did Iida's voice out. That was awesome. So Ochaco Uraraka. I do enjoy the character. She's one of the first characters that we did get to see and get development early on, and with obviously her and Deku. She was one of the nice people. Of course, she starts off as just that nice girl, as Deku just calls her.
Yeah, girl next door kind of thing.
It was interesting, because when he almost falls and she saves her, I was like, oh wow, this chick's probably gonna be really powerful. I did not expect her to end up basically having to be saved by Midorya so early on in the exams. So I'm like, oh, okay. But I thought it was cool. And I like the friendship that they develop. And I'm like, I guess we'll go later on in the series here. I don't know what the heck's going on. I saw a meme where it says they did a face of Uraraka, and the meme says, when you like him, but unfortunately he's a shonen protagonist, so you have to wait the entire series before you can get with him.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, because I'm like, I was like, I don't know, like what the heck's going on here. Basically, I think they explore a possible them having feelings, or maybe just her having feelings later on. So we can target that around season 2 and 3 when we review it. I think she's cool. I think the outfit's cool. The pink and the black designs. I like the zero gravity and her being able to make herself float and everything. I really like how she got the best of I forget his name. How to say his name? The villain that's like the misty type of guy. Kurogi. Yeah, Kurogi. Yeah, Kurogiri. I liked how she got the best of him towards the end. So I thought that was really cool. So what's your thoughts? Season 1, Uraraka.
Okay, well, first of all, I liked her right away. Like, I did just the character design of her. I thought was cute. I didn't like how I can already feel like the second you meet her, you're like, oh no, she's gonna be the love interest, isn't she? Like it was that feel, and I kind of don't like that where she shouldn't just be the love interest to be the love interest. It should be that these characters complement each other well, or they can help each other improve. But it's just like, oh, we like her because she's the main girl. Come on. But it's like, okay, but not like I just don't like that they kind of played that too much. And I don't know if it was in the first season, but I feel like definitely later on it does start to feel even more like that. But yeah, I liked her right away, and I'm not sure. I don't know if this is like spoiler or whatever. Does she give her backstory in the first season, or is that in the second or third?
That would have been yeah. It was the first. It was
the first season.
Yeah, I think it was the first season. It was like when they were in the cafeteria because she wanted to know, and her family and everything. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Honorable,
Yeah. So then already
very honorable too.
For what you said, honorable?
Yeah, her reason wanting to be a hero, unlike Mineta. We'll find out later on.
I mean, don't even talk to me about that person. But yeah, with Uraraka, I already felt like I really liked her, and I already started to feel like a connection to her. Where I'm like, somehow I see myself in her. And I'm like, well, this is like weird. Like, I don't know why I do. And then it got even more so when she was talking about her past. And she was like, yeah, my family owns a construction company. I'm like, oh my gosh, my family owns I was just like more that I was connecting with. And then what she said, like, obviously, like you were saying, I can like appreciate her reasoning, even though it sounds like fickle, sort of like, oh, well, I want more money. You're like, oh, wow. Okay. But she's like, I want more money so that like I can support my parents. And you're like, all right, like you come to understand that feeling. And I understand that feeling too. Like, God, if my parents need my help, like, of course I would be there for them, and so that I really saw myself in her a lot, and I liked her right away. And obviously as the seasons go on, I like her more. The whole love interest thing, and I mean, maybe we'll get into ships and stuff later. I don't necessarily ship her with Deku, And I know that's what the show wants, but I'm like, I don't really see it. But we can go into that maybe later.
I think that would be a great one to do for, I know who you want to ship her with, and I think that will be great for when we do our review for 2,
The
because
fans
those
hate
characters
me.
will have an interaction. All right, next character, and I thought Ayane and Lucy, respectively, in the English and Japanese, they do a great job.
I want to chime in. I can't say much about Ayane, but I just know Lucy Christian. When I heard Lucy Christian, I was like, because I mean, I grew up with anime that had Lucy Christian in it, so I really looked up to her as a voice actress. And then hearing her as Uraraka even more made me connect to Uraraka. Like I was like, it's Lucy Christian. I used to like mimic Lucy Christian's voice all the time. And then now I hear her and I was like, dang, like it's coming full circle. Like I don't know. So yeah, I just want to say I think Lucy Christian did a really great job and she continues to do a great job. All right, next.
Awesome. Next character we have Denki Kaminari. So he's the one that can use electricity. He's basically our human version of Pikachu here. And hey, anybody who loves Pikachu, hey, how could you not love it? Electricity is always a cool power. If you grew up watching Static Shock or anything like that.
Static Shock.
Yeah, that was my teen years, Static Shock. So I mean, I think
Saturday mornings.
superhero and electricity is always cool. So I like him in that sense. But what I find more interesting about him as a character is not so much his quirk, but his reaction. He becomes mentally disabled after using too much electricity. Like they had that cool hilarious scene where they thought and they got me really good, like that scene, like I said, when Momo her top gets disintegrated or whatever, and they say don't look, and he has like these thumbs up, and they zoom up to a shot, and he's got this crazy look, he's like, oh, and they got the blood coming from his nose. I'm like, oh, like this guy's gone crazy from looking. But then they find out like, oh wait a minute, no, he wasn't looking at all, and they said he basically becomes what did the narrator said, he became an idiot or whatever because he wow. So I think that's the most interesting thing about him. This is a character that I would say is good comedy relief for me. Like I find it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely sense that from the start they were trying to do that. And it's weird because when I saw him, like, it's there in terms of like, wow, he has the power of electricity and like his design is cool. And for somehow, like right when I saw him, his design reminded me of Edward Elric, just because he's got the blonde hair, he's got the blue eyes. Something about him just reminded me of him right away. And I'm like, I want to like this character more. But for now, I'm like, oh yeah, I like him. He's okay. But because they use him as comic relief, I start to get kind of like, all right, it's been done. Like he's more than that. Show him as more. So when he develops his powers with like little gadgets and stuff, I start to like, oh, okay, this is getting interesting. I'm liking him. And then I think what stains him a little bit for me is he started to become friends with Mineta, and it's because they're similar. He's like, oh, we're going to go and hit on chicks, aren't we? Yeah, we are. And I'm just like, come on, Kaminari, like you're better than this. So when Kaminari's kind of hanging out with Kirishima, red-haired guy, that's when I'm like, okay, I like him like this. Like they're like a power team. I like that. But when he hangs out with Mineta, I'm like, come on, dude. So I like him. In the first season, I'm not sure that he did much. I know during the USJ incident he did. But yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was part of the cool coordinated attack they did for her and him and Momo and the one girl, I forget her name, but it has the ability to use the earphones and stuff into the head jacks or like into the ground.
Jiro or something.
Yeah, there is a really cool coordinated attack. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then remember how I said before where there's that theory going around with Hagakure, the girl who can disappear or not disappear. She's invisible always. So there's that theory with her. And then the other theory is that Kaminari was the traitor. And the reason being where they're like, okay, since they're at an undisclosed location, the only way that somebody could, reach out to the villains would be like through some sort of signal. And who has powers over signals other than Kaminari? Like he actually, he can, through electricity, he can do this, blah, blah, blah. So the other theory is that he was the, and that he was the traitor and that he kind of plays dumb. Like he's not actually going dumb, he plays dumb. And I was like, I don't know. It like if you read up on it, it really it makes sense. And that's why I'm iffy on Kaminari, where I'm like, yeah, I like him, he's cool. but is he the traitor? Like, I don't know, but it hasn't been actually clear. And it's funny because I know you told me once before, like the creator of Dragon Ball was sort of like, people asked him, oh, well, what happened to this character? And he's like, oh, I just forgot, And what was it? It was with who was that again?
Launch. Akira
Launch. There you go.
Toriyama
I was
forgot
gonna say
about
Rush.
Launch.
Launch. Yeah, like he just completely forgot about Launch. Like, oh shoot, that was a character. Yeah, and then that's what happened with because people interview him and they're like, are you ever going to reveal the traitor? Like, who is the traitor in UA? And he's like, I forgot about that. Like, I totally forgot I set that up.
Yo, that's a classic Toriyama
like,
move.
Yeah, so everyone's like, dude, what? So then that's another thing. Was Kaminari written as the traitor? Probably not, because he doesn't even remember. Like, I totally forgot about it. So now he's been saying like, oh, maybe I'll revisit it.
Channeled his inner Horikoshi channeled his inner Toriyama Akira with that answer.
Yeah. So I mean, who knows? I don't know if he's a traitor, but I'm starting to feel like he might have been, or they're gonna write him to be one. But who knows what's gonna happen? I don't know.
That would be interesting. I'll say if that turns out like who would have expected with his type of character. And we'll move on to Eijiro Kirishima. Kirishima, yeah, the red hair, and he's friends with Bakugo. So basically, I think he's a cool character. He's able to, his quirk is hardening. So he's able to harden and sharpen any part of his body for defense or attack. Somehow I didn't get that. I didn't get that when I was watching this. I don't know how much we got to see his quirk in action. So when I read the description of his quirk, I'm like, oh, that's what he does. But I think it's really cool that he's actually able to be friends with anyone. Like, he's friends with both Midorya and Bakugo, and he can he just reminds me like that type of person that can just go into any crowd and get along with anyone. So I think that's really cool. Once again, like I said, I feel like a lot of these characters, someone here to relate to everybody. So people could just go right in there and meet with any type of people and everything, and just befriend them. Like, I think that's pretty cool. That he's that type of character. Torishiki Masuda, I thought does a good job in the Japanese version. But for nostalgic purposes, I do love the English voice, because Justin Cook breaks out the Yusuke Urameshi voice. And I love Yu Yu Hakusho, my second all-time favorite anime of all time. So it's really good to hear that voice. I heard it right away, I know if AVD Doodles, Asia Dai out there, if I know that's her boy Justin Cook, Yusuke's her boy, her all-time favorite. So I know every time she hears this voice, that gets a big pop out of her. Pop being what they're calling getting a reaction in professional wrestling. I always gotta use my WWE terminology. So yeah, that's a cool thing. I think this character's cool, and we get more development for him. So but we did get a little bit of development. We see that he's one of the few people that it seems like Bakugo, like, he can tolerate being around Bakugo or something. So yeah, what did you think about him in terms of season 1?
Oh yeah, like you said right away, you can sense that he's the kind of character who just gets along with anybody. It doesn't matter. And he's the one who dares to kind of make fun of Bakugo, whereas everyone else is kind of leave him alone. He's angry, he's whatever. But he's just, I don't know, Kirishima. I'm trying to think. I like that Kirishima. I think he's just a really big empath. He really Bakugo's no, we're not going to check them and it's fine. And then Kishima's like, oh, the reason that you don't want to check on them is because you're thinking that they're okay. So then he reads into Bakugo, and that's what Bakugo needs, because on the surface, you can easily dismiss Bakugo and be like, this jerk, this kid, whatever. And then when you look deep down, you're like, oh, these are his motives, or that's why he's doing this. And Kirishima noticed that right away about Bakugo, and that's why they became such good friends. He was just like, hey, oh, I can see that. Well, when you're acting like that, you actually are feeling this, So with Kirishima, I really liked him. From the start, I was like, oh, he's cool. And then obviously as time goes on and, the seasons, in different seasons, he develops more and you kind of see him more. So, I can't remember what he did much in the first season. I think he was just sort of, he's literally just Bakugo's friend in the first season.
Pretty
that
much.
One guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he didn't have much going on, but from the start, I'm like, I like him. He's nice. And then he gets better, yeah.
Next character we've got is Kyoka Jiro. So, she's the one, or no, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, she's the one that basically looks like a teen version of Major Makoto Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell. So if everyone wondered what Makoto, the Major from Ghost in the Shell, probably looked like as a teenager, I assume this would probably be it, because she has the purple short hair that comes like goes from short to long in the front. She has the one that has but she has the quirk where she could do the earphone jacks, and she can like have the sound waves coming in and everything where she plugs it in. I think she's a good strategizer too. She tried to, I think, at one point try to strategize something, but they caught on to her. The villains caught on to her plan. I think she has a cool design and cool character. Not one of my favorites, but cool. Yeah, I do really like the quirk though. I think she's one of the better characters. I would say. I think Kei and is it Trina? They do a great job voice acting her. Any thoughts you have on Jiro?
Yeah, I mean, just trying to think in the first season, I thought her power was cool. I wasn't crazy about the design. I don't know. I don't like the fact that her ears can retract like that. I don't know. It just bothered me. Like I was like, "Ugh." It's like you see those people who put like what are those called, gauges or gaugers or something? When they put them in their ear, and it like stretches their ear out, and then they take them out, and their ears like flappy. Do you know what I'm talking about? So that's what Jiro reminds me of. Like it's like that feel. I don't know. I don't like that look. But then she's another one. As the seasons go on, I see how the usefulness of her quirk, and I start to like her. So, but yeah, in the first season, yeah, I just thought her power was cool.
The UA staff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's go on and talk about Nezu. This guy is the top dog. Maybe the top mouse. Maybe the top bear. Okay, he's the top dog mouse bear of UA, the principal. Well, his voice, his design, it's quite interesting. It reminds me of how you have the king is a cat or a dog or something that looks like a cat and a dog, I think, in Dragon Ball and everything. Funny guy. I like when apparently he didn't like the lecture that what's his name wasn't liking the lecture. Wasn't liking the lecture from him. What was his name? All Might. He had, so his quirk is super intelligence, and that's what it is. He's super smart, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. All right.
But I think he I don't know. He's an interesting character. That's the way I could describe him.
Well, for me, it's just I get so distracted with this character because Jerry Jewell, is that how you say his
Yep.
last name?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I grew up watching Fruits Basket. It's my favorite manga of all time. And then Fruits Basket, the anime, he was Kyo Soma. So I hear so much of Kyo in this. So when I hear like Principal Nezu just going like ha 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 and like being like crazy and stuff, I'm like, Kyo, what's going on? So I get so distracted by that. Other than that, I mean, as the character himself, he doesn't matter necessarily to me. I almost don't trust him somehow. I don't know why. Like maybe it's because he's literally like not human looking, and just like, and when he talks to people, he like doesn't blink and he stares straight at him, and I don't know. There's just something about him I don't
he
trust.
could be the traitor.
He could be. He's the one
Who else
said,
would have the biggest access to the school, right?
That's true. He's the one who's like, well, the villain somehow found out about it, so there must be a traitor. Well, maybe it's you. Like,
You know what?
why should
I
we-
won't be surprised if he goes down that road for that storyline. I think that would be an excellent one.
Yeah, maybe, but maybe that's too obvious. That's another thing. Like, oh, maybe like if he's trying to kind of throw us off the trail.
His quirk is that he's
Yeah.
super intelligent, though. So
Yeah, that's true.
Thank
But
you.
yeah.
You bringing that up. I'm like, I think that is, yeah.
It could be, yeah. But anyway, yeah. So other than that, I don't have much to say about him. He seems nuts.
We have Chiyo Suzenchi, aka Recovery Girl. So basically, when I think of Recovery Girl, I think of Pinako Rockbell from Full Metal Alchemist.
That's so true.
Yo, check this out. Obviously, the folks at Funimation must have thought so too, because Julie Eckerson, who voices Pinako from Full Metal Alchemist, is actually her voice. I feel like she's just like a superhero version of her, you know? Just imagine Ed coming up, Granny, you've gotten the powers to recover. Like, hey, yeah, they can get their arm and leg back through there. So
to her.
yeah, she so I think the character's it's funny, and she's the healer, and she serves a purpose in the story and everything. So yeah, I'm fine with her. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, she's just kind of there, and it's like you said, the second I saw her, I'm like, why does she look like the grandma from Full Metal? Like right away, I noticed that too, and it's funny, I didn't know that the voice actors were the same. That's interesting, but yeah, she's just kind of there. She does serve a purpose, but she's just there.
Shoto Aizawa, who is known as Eraserhead. So I like this character a lot. I love this character. He's like all serious, all business, is a very harsh teacher. Yet you can see deep down inside, he's kind of a softie for all the UA students. Like even Midorya, like I love him. Like when he's like Midorya's like, oh, he erases his cork and says, you won't get far with that. And he loved how Midorya basically adapted by using his finger, knowing he would rather sacrifice his finger than his body. And then you see the big grin and smile, and he's like, this kid is amazing. I'm like, wow. Yeah. I think it's really cool. Yeah, he looks super tired, but man, when the fight was on, when the villains attacked and he just started coming in with his tape and swinging left and right and boom, kicking this person out the way, punching, just going through all the basically the jabronis, honestly, of these villains that they were. I thought it was really cool showing off, but I really felt sorry for him once was it the Noumu grabbed him by the head and bashed his skull into and bloody pulp, and Shigaraki decayed his elbow, and he just got murked so bad, like, oh my. And I felt sorry because I felt like we kind of grew this character because he was teaching all the the next generation of heroes and everything, and like we had got time with this character, and then to see him getting destroyed and watching their teacher, like, oh man. And we find out, his quirk is not really good for racing in long-term fights, but yeah, though I really like Aizawa. I love him as a teacher. I think he's one of the coolest characters we got in the series. Junichi and Alex, I thought, did a fantastic job. Alex Organ, I believe, only did season 1 for him in English, the English dub, but yeah. Any thoughts you have about Aizawa?
Oh yeah, for Aizawa, right away, I didn't care much for him though. I'm trying to think first season, what necessarily he did, but up until the USJ incident, that's when I started to really like kind of build respect for him. Like, whoa, like, and when they bashed his head and all this stuff, and he like refused to close his eyes because he was protecting his students. Like I really admired him for that. Although I will say, I think a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so into Eraserhead. I love Eraserhead. I'm like, oh, he's okay. Like I wasn't super into him. I just think he's fine. I was more like that with All Might. Like, yeah, All Might, he's here. But with Eraserhead, I'm like, oh yeah, he's cool. But I will say, I do like that. It's almost kind of what you mentioned, like Hagakure. Oh, your power is invisible. Are you like a good fighter? And that's what I like for him, where it's like, oh, what's your power? I erase. But at the same time, you look at him, he can fight, and he uses those those ribbons or whatever that are like not titanium, but there's some kind of material that can it's almost like metal-ish. And like it can hurt people, it can do this, and he's a good fighter, and he's like a ninja, he's nimble and stuff. So he had more to him than just erasing, and that's what I like when your quirk isn't just all that you are. It's more than that, like you use all of your abilities to make your quirk work too. Like your quirk works for you, but then you should focus on other things. And I think a lot of the other characters focus, like obviously they've even mentioned it in the series, like Shoto. Like Todoroki, he relies way too much on his quirk. Like you don't see him just punching. He always uses ice or something, to fight. And he's just one of those characters that just is so reliant on his quirk. Whereas, Eraserhead, you take away his quirk, he's like, okay, I'll fight you a different way. And I like that about him. He's very versatile. So yeah, I liked him in the first season.
let's move on to Hizashi Yamad. Now, this character is by far the most over-the-top character in the entire series. He does all the announcements for all the quirks and everything. Like, I guess it's third party or separate, not in the show. Because I'm like, man, this guy's got knowledge on everybody. But this is one of those times where I'm actually gonna say the Japanese voice kind of stood out to me. Hiroyuki Yoshino, like this squeechiness that he does in his voice, like, yeah, are you ready? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. It's something that sounds like that. It's probably a terrible impression, but it's something squeaky like that in the Japanese version. Yeah, and then when I got to the Funimation dub, and hey, I'm a big Dragon Ball fan, so I have the utmost respect for Sunny Straight Kudin, known as Krillin in the Funimation dub, and I think he only did season 1 only. Man, I was like, I don't know, like it was hard to try and adjust from like the way he was in the Japanese version compared to the English version. Now there are moments where you get to that point, but it's like, yeah, I think I prefer this character in the Japanese version. But yeah, I thought this guy's hilarious, and we get more development, and I get to see what he can do in season 2. But yeah, like this character's over the top.
Yeah, that's true, and you can see that from the start. They play into that, and that's what I thought of him right away. He's just like, he sounds like a guy who likes hearing his voice, like "Welcome, everybody!" Ha ha! Like he just sort of had that, you know. And I don't know how he sounded in the Japanese version really, because I'm not sure if I heard him in those episodes that I did watch in the Japanese. But I just know in the English version, he definitely has that, like, welcome, folks. Like, he likes to be heard.
He's way more over the top in the Japanese version.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's just the impression I had of him in the first season. Like, I'm like, oh, he likes hearing himself. Boom. Nothing. Like, that was it.
Nicely said, Rebecca Beck. Well, we're gonna go ahead now and go through some of our honorable mentions, because if we went on any longer, this review would just be way over long, and we mostly still just have the villains and the main event to break down. So characters that I like to go ahead and give an honorable mention to that I felt really didn't do as much in season 1, we'll probably have more to say about them in season 2, are Rikido Sato, Mezzo Shoji, Hanta Shiro, Fumikaze Tokoyami, and Space Hero, aka number 13. Now I'll let you go on and give the honorable mentions for some of our pro heroes.
Honorable mentions, we have Cementos, Midnight, Snipe, Ectoplasm, Power Loader, and Vlad King.
Yeah, those are honorable mentions because they make appearances, but we don't really know too much other than their quirks. And I'm like, I will say we can go through those characters in season 2, but they're really all strong and powerful. There you go. Villains, the Sludge Villain. He's one of those characters that's going to be forever submitted as the first, I think, villain and everything. Not much to him. Like he was basically as they call it in professional wrestling, someone whose job is just to basically make the other wrestler look good so they get defeated by them easily. He was a jobber. He was the jobber to basically push the whole Midorya, Bakugo, and All Might. He was basically there for that. We get to see All Might defeat him twice, and that's basically what his purpose was. Sludge monster. He was there to help establish these 3 characters early on. Do you have any fond memories of the sludge villain? No, yeah, I think
when
that's
you
the name,
put it
Sludge
like that.
Villain.
Do you have any fond memories? Well, it's when he ate Bakugo. Like when I think of the Sludge Villain, it was just dirty.
Hey,
like you said,
you gotta admit,
I didn't know there was
even though after his death he gets a lot of screen time. How many times through the series do they still go back to those flashbacks? So hey,
that's true.
He gets his flashbacks. He will forever be that, because they keep going back to that moment. He'll forever be ingrained.
Yeah, at least he did something. Hey, something worthy of the villain name. Yeah, for me, I don't know. I didn't think much of him. He was just there. He's gone. It's over.
All right, we get to the good stuff now. Kurogiri.
Because Kuro means like black. So Kuro, I think that's what they're going with.
He's the Miss character, and he It was cool hearing Takahiro had a really great voice. In the English dub, Chuck Hubert, I could tell it was his voice. They may have just pitched it down a bit. I love him as this character. So yeah, he's like He's the really cool. He's like kind of like Frieza a little bit, well mannered but evil at the same time and stuff. And yet he still gets bested by the students of UA. Like, I don't know, he's a character like with the deep voice and his presence. He just seems like a character that couldn't get best, but man, he got bested twice by the UA students. I'm like, wow, he's not as a dominant force as I thought. I feel like his design makes him look more of a dominant force than he actually is, but he gets bested by the UA students. But I think he's a really cool villain. He's able to keep he seems to be able to keep a light head when Shigaraki gets out of it. When Shigaraki basically gets out of control and stuff and starts having his tangents. But what do you think?
I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the design of him. Right when I saw him, I thought of Slender Man. And even though I don't know, like obviously he doesn't look like Slender Man, but I don't know if it's the suit or whatever it was. I just had this like off feeling about him. Like I'm like, ooh, I don't really like him. He creeps me out. I don't know why. And then yeah, in the first season you don't see much of him. Later on, I'm just like, oh, okay, that's that guy that can warp. Okay, but in the first season, when you see him, he just has like this menacing feel, and because he doesn't look human already, I was like thrown off. Like, I don't know. So when I first saw him, I just had that bad feeling. Like he was a good villain.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to Tomura Shigaraki. This villain is incredible. I mentioned earlier cookie cutter villains. This is what I love, that this guy is not a cookie cutter villain. I love how he tries to manipulate like and make everything like justified, like how he tries to say like, the villains, like violence here, what's the difference between violence of heroes and villains, and he tries to make it justice. Like he's like, that boy, he tried to kill me, he just now like, oh man, the I love the design of this character. I love villains like this that he's not and I will kill you. Like I love how he's trying to basically justify what the evil things that he does, and he tries to spin it and tries to make the heroes the one. And then when things don't goes his way, he gets all angry. It's like when All Might ends up winning the final battle, you cheated, and that weird itching noise where he like every time he scratches his neck and everything, like, oh. Alright, so and I like him as a villain, and I think he has some really great dialogue, especially what he says at the end of season 2. But we'll save it for then. Yeah, I really love this character as a villain, and it really makes me go always like when he was like trying to with All Might and everything, and he's trying to like turn everything up against All Might, like, oh, you're the evil one for doing this and everything. I was like, I'm like, kick his butt, and like when things don't go his way and everything, I'm like, yeah, what you thought it was gonna be that easy or something? Like, oh man, like, yeah, like he's a villain that gets me emotionally invested. I really want to see the heroes take him down. Yeah, I love this character. Really, I get, and we get more and more development with this character, so I can't say enough good things about it. And he has the part where his quirk, he can, if he touches with all 5 of his fingers, he can make anything decay. And I guess like if it's not amputated immediately, it might explode or something like that. I think Koki Uchiyama and Eric Vale, obviously voice actor of Trunks, I'm familiar with Eric Vale and from Dragon Ball, do a fantastic job voicing the character. I can't say enough good things. This would go on much longer than what it is, and we're going to be wrapping up the podcast soon, so I can't say enough good things. This is a really cool villain. I can't say enough good things about it. How do you like Shigaraki as a villain?
Oh, right away. I'm trying to think, because when you first meet him, it's in the USJ incident. He comes off as intimidating, because I didn't know, you first see him, you don't really know what his quirk is, what's going on, but there's something about him that just is like death. and I guess it's the hands that are all over him. It just, there's something that looks like it's like drawing you into like darkness or something. So right away he played it well for me, where I'm like, oh, whoa, he has like this like scary feel. And then I mean, I don't know if you know too much about him after like the first season.
Oh yeah, I've watched all 3 seasons. I'm just waiting. I'm just gonna wait till we do our reviews for then to get more into the detail.
No. I'm saying I'm not quite sure, like anybody, like you, not you, like the formal you, I guess. I don't know if anybody, like how much do you know about him at the end of season 1? But I just remember, like for me, villains, the ones that I end up liking are the ones that like, they're not just like, haha, I want to do evil things because I'm evil. They're like, oh, well, no, we're doing this because heroes think that they're so great. And they think, but actually, you know what? So it's like he starts to make sense. And then that's when you're like, shoot, I'm agreeing with the villain. This is bad. Like, so when the villain kind of like, no, we're not trying to be evil. We just, we think that it should be like this. Like you start to see his side of things. And then that's the kind of villains that, you know, I can't hate. And when it comes to Shigaraki, I don't hate him. He's intimidating, and that never left, like especially later on. But I guess, you know, we'll talk about that for 2 or 3. He has just this, like, aura of like, you want to stay away from him, but at the same time I'm like, oh, this is a cool villain, you know. So yeah, I like him.
All for One. He only makes one appearance in one scene where he's in like he's like very shadowy, and I don't think we get much dialogue with him. We get more development. We learn more about All for One later, but given that Shigaraki is shown to not be the boss, he says it himself, like when he took out Aizawa, he said, here comes the final boss, and he goes like, by the way, I'm not the final boss. And then the Noumu shows up like, oh man, I love this character. It's game over. If you didn't have a body, Kuro, I would have destroyed you into pieces. I love it. But yeah, I thought it's really good. All for One. Like, yeah, he only makes one appearance, but it's all I feel like you need to see for season 1. Like, you know, okay, season 1 is a great cliffhanger. It ends letting you know there's a bigger boss out there, someone stronger, and there's someone even powerful. Trey, what did you think? Were you okay with All for One just making like one quick appearance just to show us that, hey, there's something out there and this is your hook for season 2?
Oh, I liked it, yeah. And then I'm trying to think, did they show the actual design of him? Yeah, because I'm remembering blackness, and I'm like, I don't remember them actually showing. But I was fine with it because I like that build up where it's like, oh, hey, okay, the main story is this is how Deku became a hero, but then at the same time, obviously, like, okay, let's show you, here's this random guy. Oh, who's this? Shigaraki. Who's this villain? Wow. And then you think that this is the main villain, and then it's like, oh no, but wait, there's more. So I was fine with that. It's just, you know, it's typical story writing, so I was good with it.
Yeah, and now, having gone through all these characters, woo! We are on the main event. So, of course, eventually, you know, when all hope looks lost, this is the moment. Oh man, I get chills every single time I watch this. When basically, you know, they finally he's about to try and is it Suya? He's about to touch Suya right there on the face, and I love the way they animated how it looked like she was gonna disintegrate, and even and when like Midorya does like the smash, and the Noumu, I think that's what they call it, right? Gets in the way. I think Shigaraki called it the biomechanical anti-symbol of peace, and he even calls All Might the symbol of garbage or something. Love it. Love that character. But yeah, when the door breaks down and All Might walks in, and you've got the Yuki's theme of, I believe it is called was it the I'm Here when it plays dun, 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 and basically All Might is like, don't fear, children, I am here. And he's not smiling. I'm like, oh, it's about to go down. It's about to go down. I was so hyped. It gives me so much goosebumps every time I watch that scene. This takes me back to Son Goku on planet Namek when he arrived after the Ginyu Force whooped the crap out of Krillin, Vegeta, and Gohan, and Goku arrives. It's just, oh my gosh. And when he shows up and he is angry, and I just love how he runs through all the jabronis, all the jobbers, real quick, boom, 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 and he's even able to save them. And what I liked about this final fight is that you think All Might's just gonna show up because they hyped him up so much, like he's the #1 hero. Now we get to see it, and All Might, he ends up I liked it. Actually, they didn't make Kohei didn't make it easy. He actually had the villains put up a big fight because they used the cheap tactics. He does the German suplex on All Might, and he managed to get his fingers into the damaged part of his ribs, and then Kurogiri, he uses his miss, and thankfully the other UA students like Bakugo, as I mentioned earlier, he had an awesome line. He eventually gets him down, and Todoroki, they were able to help free him when they freeze Noumu, and we get the most, probably one of, I think, is the coolest scenes, one of the most defining moments of All Might to really establish this series, when they show you what the heroes are all about at their top pro, when they said they made Noumu like as strong as 100% of his power. And he goes like,
now for a lesson. You may have heard these words before, but now I'll teach you what they really mean. Go beyond plus ultra!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. When he starts like just going plus ultra and going blow to blow with the normal, and he's punching it in the air, and then he's kicking it over there, and he's blocking the punch, and he's kicking them and throwing them in the air and putting them down to the ground, and he's all over the thing. The normal didn't have no idea what hit him, and then he does the plus ultra, and basically it looks like he has all these explosions in his back, and the normal is sent through the roof into the sky, through a cloud, through a second cloud, like through a third cloud, and goes all the way, what I thought was in space. I'm like, oh, yo, sent him all the way to the sky, all the way off the freaking planet. I was like, All Might. If I was a wrestling commentator, I'd be like, All Might, All Might, All Might. I was stunned. I was out of my chair. This is how animated I was watching this. I was like, holy crap. And then he went on to say, it would have taken me just probably one blow in my prime, but today it took 300 mighty shots. And he's still...
Yeah. Just when he starts punching really, really quick, I was already like, go! Like, oh, so cool.
I was like, yo, and then seeing Shigaraki's only response to this is, you cheated. I'm like, get out of here. What? I was like, you just smack him right upside the head. I was so ready, but then they did a great job. All the villains, they retreat at the end, and you see All Might, he's starting to smoke, and he's still trying to look tough, but he knows, like, we both know that we both want this to be done right away. And that's where he's able to see that he still has a weakness, but they end up leaving and getting away because all the pro heroes arrive. And I thought it was really good how they were able to keep All Might's secret when he goes back down to his form where he gets all anorexic and everything. I thought this was a great conclusion to the season 1. I thought they did a really good job, though, to establish that all the UA students are tough to have gone through such a scary situation and survive. Like, it's like really good. Like, it's a really great ending to season 1, and this was a great way to introduce what All Might was all about. I was a little disappointed, though, to see that they captured the normal and just took him to jail. I'm like, really? I would have much rather leave it the impression that he's floating out in space somewhere and never to return. Woo! I knew I was gonna get animated. I've watched this 3 times now, once in Japanese, twice in the English dub, and every time it gets me so hyped. It is incredible. The animation is top notch. What a way to end season 1. All right, I'm gonna take a break here and let you go on, Rebecca Beck. What did you think about our introduction to Beyond Plus Ultra with this final fight of All Might versus Noumu?
I mean, you pretty much covered it all. Because when I first saw it, I like, as I was watching what was happening with all the kids at USJ, I was nervous as if I was there. Like, oh man, like it's getting bad. There's so many of those villains, and like, like in your heart, you're like, okay, they're gonna be okay. Obviously, come on, it's like Deku's obviously gonna survive it. He's narrating, So, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know, like I just had that feeling like I was there, and then just that relief that came over me when you see All Might, like, oh, it's gonna be okay, like he's here, like, oh, it's gonna be fine. And then when you see him fighting, like, I didn't have a doubt in my mind that he was gonna win. And when you see, like I said, just those fast punches, like like I was like, oh my gosh, yes, like, oh, so I was getting really excited for it. And obviously, like you said, it was a really great like ending for that season. So yeah, oh, it was just a really good scene in general.
Definitely. And with that said in mind, well, we have finally reached the conclusion of this. We went on for like 2 hours, 20 minutes. Still shorter than the actual season. But hey, there was, like I said, there's a lot of characters introduced in My Hero Academia. So I hope you all, if you listen this far, have enjoyed. We'll definitely be back, I know, with season 2 and season 3. There we'll just mostly be breaking more down the story since we've gone through most of the characters. If a character didn't really stand out too much in that season, there we go. But I think there'll definitely be a lot more to talk about then. This is the part though where I allow for plugs. So go ahead, Rebecca Beck, go ahead and plug where the good folks can find you out there on social media.
Okay, well, just officially, because I have my own personal social medias and stuff like that, but just officially, what I do have is YouTube, so it'll be Rebecca Bakiro, so under my full name, but it will be under Rebecca Beck as well that you can find me. So yeah, so just look forward to hearing more of me from YouTube.
Thank you again for joining me for this discussion, Rebecca Beck. And you guys can make sure to subscribe to me here on YouTube, followed by hitting the notification bell so that way you are notified as soon as my content is released. Also, make sure to like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter and Instagram, both at SONGOSHUAKU. If you're a WWE fan or Dragon Ball fan, I have more discussions/reviews just like this one here on my YouTube. And also, I've been working on a short film called Battle of Deception, which is very much inspired by anime, so definitely check that out. I've got teaser trailers and behind the scene interviews also currently right now, and I am working on the trailer for that. So therefore, guys, until we will be back with a My Hero Academia Season 2 discussion, until then, take care.